milk, white or plain, in confectionery, cakes or hot drinks, it seems we just can't get enough of chocolate. Britain is the chocoholic capital of Europe. We chomp and slurp our way through over 660 million kilos of cocoa-based products every year. That's more than 11 kilos per head, or the equivalent of about 260 Mars bars. But as we revel in our favourite chocolatey treats, do we ever think about where our chocolate comes from, how it's made, or how it became such a part of our diet? Welcome then to the story of chocolate. All the chocolate we consume comes from cacao trees that only grow in a hot, rainy climate some 20 degrees north and south of the equator. Chocolate comes from the fruit of the tree whose Latin name is Theobroma cacao, meaning food of the gods. The fruit or pods contain the seeds called cacao beans from which chocolate is made. But first, the hard outer shell must be split in two. Inside is a white pulp surrounding up to 50 or 60 beans. The pulp and beans are removed and set aside to ferment, enriching the flavour of the cacao. Beans are laid out in the sun to dry, before being bagged and shipped all over the world for processing. As long ago as 1500 BC, the Mayan civilization of Central America had discovered how to make a bittersweet drink from cacao. It was served at rituals and religious ceremonies. They even worshipped the cacao tree, believing it to be of divine origin. The Aztecs of central Mexico also prized cacao. But because they lived north of the region where the trees grow, they had to acquire the beans through trade or from the spoils of war. Aztecs prized the beans so highly they used them as currency. 10 beans were enough to buy a rabbit, while 100 beans would get you a turkey. Even taxes were paid in cacao beans to Aztec emperors. Like the Mayans, the Aztecs also used cacao as a beverage fermented from the raw beans, served during rituals and ceremonies, and as a luxury for the very wealthy. Spanish explorer Christopher Columbus was the first European to encounter cacao while on a journey to the Americas in 1502. He returned to Spain with a quantity of beans, but they weren't to everyone's taste. José da Costa, a 16th century Spanish Jesuit missionary, immortalized on a Spanish postage stamp from the 1960s, wrote scathingly of the cacao-based beverage, "Loathsome to such as are not acquainted with it, having a scum or froth that is very unpleasant to taste." But following the Spanish conquest of the Aztecs, more beans were exported to Europe, and it quickly became a favourite beverage at court, only now it was being sweetened with sugar or honey to counteract the bitterness. By the mid-18th century, chocolate, as it had become known, was rivaling coffee. The coffee houses of London were doing a roaring trade in this new and fashionable beverage, and its fame was spreading via overland trade routes and our many coastal and river ports, including Morwellham Quay. Indeed, it's certain that chocolate would have been supplied in the ship inn and sold in the village shop. But it wasn't until the first half of the 19th century that Dutch chemist Coenraad van Houten, using alkaline salts to reduce bitterness in chocolate and a process to extract cacao butter from chocolate liquor, paved the way for producing the solid chocolate in its many forms that we recognize today. Some of the pioneering names in chocolate development are familiar. Joseph Fry experimented with making chocolate moldable by adding back-melted cocoa butter, and in 1847 he produced the first commercially available chocolate bar. Henri Nestlé developed powdered milk, leading to the invention of milk chocolate. and Rudolf Lindt invented the conching machine, a process that enhances the texture and taste of chocolate. In 1824, a young Quaker, John Cadbury, opened a grocery store in Birmingham selling tea and coffee. Soon after, he added a chocolate beverage that ultimately led to the confectionery empire we know today. Nearly 40 years later, in 1862, Henry Isaac Rowntree purchased a cocoa and chocolate business. Also a teetotal Quaker, Rowntree promoted chocolate drinks as an alternative to alcohol for the working man. Thus began our nation's love affair with chocolate. From the social elite in the coffee houses of London to working families and rural village stores like here at Morwellham Quay, chocolate in all its forms was much in demand. Today, around 2/3 of the world's cocoa is produced in Western Africa, mainly the Ivory Coast and Ghana, as well as Cameroon and Nigeria. The remainder comes from Indonesia, Malaysia, Ecuador and Brazil. Most is still harvested and processed by hand. Chocolate in moderation is a valuable energy source, and medical studies suggest it can help reduce the risk of blood clots and fight bad cholesterol. But what's really important to most of us is its smell, its appearance, and of course, how good it tastes. And just maybe, if Jose da Costa was alive today, he'd be enjoying it too.